Hi, I'm Eleonora, and the Pursuit of Wholeness is a program of screenings that I realized as a graduation project for my MA in film curating at the National Film and Television School. The Pursuit of Wholeness is dedicated to exploring traces and influences of ancient Greek culture, myth, and archetypes on queer and experimental films. The second film that I programmed in partnership with Fringe is Double Labyrinth. It will screen at Hackney House on Saturday, and it will be followed by a very exciting panel discussion with filmmaker Katerina Tomadaki, independent researcher Cecile Shish, and esteemed film curator Helen DeWitt. The screening is going to be free, so please do come along if you're interested. About Obscuro Barroco. Obscuro Barroco is the second feature film by Greek-born visual artist, photographer, and filmmaker Evangelia Kranioti. Following the acclaim received for her first feature, Exotica, Erotica, etc., the Greek artist has crafted another poetic film that really transcends any sort of labels. Obscuro Barroco might be called an experimental documentary as well as a piece of essay filmmaking, but I think that categories don't really do it justice. Set in nocturnal Rio de Janeiro, the film mostly follows Luana Muniz, a Brazilian trans activist, sex worker, and queer icon who sadly passed away right after shooting ended, and to whom the film is dedicated. A much revered leader in the Brazilian LGBT community, Luana Muniz has been object of interest and fascination for many filmmakers. Muniz has inspired documentaries such as last year's Daughter of the Moon, a quite traditional but very fascinating recount of her life and LGBT militancy. But as I already mentioned, Obscuro Barroco is not traditional at all. It's actually quite undefinable, and for this reason, I think all the more charming. The film is paced by Luana Muniz's warm and deep voice, reading passages of magical realist flavor from Clarice Lispector's novel Agua Viva, translated in English as The Stream of Life. These passages are combined with Muniz's own abstract reflections that mostly revolve around metamorphosis and rebirth. But being the film an object of constant transformation itself, Obscuro Barroco never really fixates on Muniz for too long. Moving through the Baroque excesses of the carnival celebration, the political protests in the streets, the underground queer parties, and some quite spectacular fireworks, Evangelia Kranioti's camera captures some truly arresting and unconventional images of Rio's iconic landscape of beaches, tropical flora, and urban sprawl. What is perhaps even more fascinating is the way these images are edited, sewn together. With a thrilling structure of freedom, the film refuses any sort of traditional narration in favor of a stream of impressionistic images and poetic refrains that seem to share one common call, the one for transformation and the freedom to transform. From the gender play and fluidity conveyed by the trans bodies and the carnival costumes, to a collective burning desire and demand for social change, Obscuro Barroco is first and foremost a visually strike hymn to a place, Rio, that Luana Muniz herself describes as the city of transformations. An endless opportunity of transformation for the individuals, but also a city that constantly transforms itself. To quote Muniz again, and I wish I could do it in Portuguese because it sounds much more poetic, but I won't do it. You'll hear it from the film. Rio de Janeiro is a factory of dreams or nightmares. And in those dreams, some get lost, some others find themselves, but no one steps into the same Rio twice. When asked about the reasons behind the choice of such a dreamlike tone and non-narrative structure for a film, Evangelia Kranioti answered that it is only partially due to her natural approach to filmmaking. As she said, it is almost as if Rio, being such a cinematographic city, asked me to be filmed this way. And also for me, this real approach was the only way to depict the contrast between a place like the city that has always been so keen on transforming itself every year for the carnival, and the harsh reality, the madness of the violence of the Brazilian society, especially against LGBT communities. Although it is never explicitly said, because nothing is ever too explicit in Obscuro Barroco, from the words pronounced by Luana Muniz throughout the film, it seems that a possible answer to this madness is to embrace a continuous and endless cycle of birth, death, rebirth, both bodily and spiritual. These ideas are very close to an ancient philosophical concept, the one of metempsychosis, that is the soul's ability to travel towards, through, and inside other bodies. so close to the point that Obscuro Barroco seems to have adapted and turned this concept of metempsychosis into its own philosophical foundation. Nevertheless, in spite of often lingering on abstract reflections and almost metaphysical concepts, the absolute beauty of Obscuro Barroco is that through Evangelia Kranioti's deeply sensitive cinematographic eye, the film never loses touch with a palpable and strong sense of physicality. A physicality that really is the mark of Rio, of Luana, of the carnival, and translates to the screen into unforgettable images of bodies dancing, changing, celebrating, protesting, moving through the city, and sensually interweaving with each other. There is so much more that could be said about Obscuro Barroco, but now I think it's best to let its striking images, sounds, and words speak for themselves. I just want to add one very last thing. Since Evangelia Kranioti shot Obscuro Barroco in 2016, and since we decided to program it for Fringe, as we all sadly know, there has been a huge and alarming step back in Brazilian politics with the election of Bolsonaro. I think that one small but encouraging bright side to this is that a powerful film like Obscuro Barroco, transforming itself once again, is now loaded up with further resonance that makes it even more relevant and worth watching and discussing. In fact, the film artistic, and I think also political value, has been recognized since it premiered in Panorama section at Berlinale earlier this year, where it won the Teddy Award for Best Queer Film at the festival. And also since the autumn festival season started, Obscuro Barroco has been scooping prizes and awards all around the world. Among the most significant ones, especially for the message it sends in Brazil, is certainly the Felix Prize received only a few days ago at the International Film Festival of Rio de Janeiro for Best Feature-Length Documentary, a prize that has been accepted by Evangelia Kranioti as a particularly special honor for everyone involved in the project and a great tribute to the memory of Luana Muniz. For all these reasons, we can only be even more proud now to have Obscuro Barroco at Fringe, and personally to have it as the opening film of the Pursuit of Wholeness. So I do hope you'll enjoy the film as much as I did, and please, if you want to take a few minutes after the screening to fill in the feedback form, I would really appreciate it. Thank you a lot, and thanks so much to Fringe and Genesis Cinema to make this possible.